This is TWiT.
But you mentioned the HTC deal, so why don't we just talk about that right now? Google apparently might be in a position to announce an acquisition of HTC, and we've been hearing rumors about HTC. I mean, well, we know HTC as a company has been hurting in a world of hurt, just as, you know, to say the least. Their shares have fallen 94% since their heyday in 2011. Which I've loved HTC's hardware early on, especially in the early days of Android. They were doing some really awesome things. They were doing design and build quality and all this stuff before a lot of competitors were. They were really focused on that, and that really set them apart. But they've really kind of fallen to the wayside over the last however many years. So lots of rumors about HTC and its business and what's going to happen. I feel like we've been hearing about this for 2, 3, 4 years now. And then very recently about the possibility of Google snapping it up when we can compare this to another time in the history of Google when it snapped up a hardware manufacturer of Motorola and did that, and then a couple of years later sold it off. So we don't know this for sure, though. This is news that's supposedly going to come out soon because HTC halted its stock trading in Taiwan today, I believe, ahead of what they say is an announcement later this week. Could this be the announcement? Does this might make sense to you, Matthew, that this would happen, that Google should buy a company like HTC?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, to be honest, I thought Motorola made sense, but obviously it turned out not to. And there were issues with Motorola that maybe aren't the case with HTC. I think in a lot of ways it does make sense for Google to kind of be vertically integrated that way as much as possible. It gives them a lot more control over costs, gives them a lot more control over sort of margins and stuff like that. So I could see it at the right price. It sounds like HTC is probably going to be pretty cheap. I mean, 300 million or something like that. What is that? Like to Google, that's like, you know, they could find that in the behind the cushions of the couch in Sundar's office, probably.
Sundar sneezes that into a tissue when he has allergies. That's what that is.
Jeez, that mental image just.
Sorry. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. He sneezes money. Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Coins, that would hurt. Yeah,
it would.
Bills, I guess.
Although, if I sneezed and money came out of my nose, I'd be sneezing all the damn time. Just saying.
If it was nickels, you'd be like, "Oh my God, my nose hurts so much."
It's going to take me a long time for retirement.
I'm so close to $150. But if they are going down this route with HTC, it's hardware go round 2, like we said, and I'd be wondering what they've learned from the Motorola experience that led them to sell that business to Lenovo, and do they think they're in a better position now? Rick Osterloh is now with Google. He was a high up guy at Motorola in terms of the product side of things. It seems as if the pieces on the chessboard are in a better position for Google to take on hardware development than when they had Motorola a few years ago.
Yeah, and it also sounds like HTC might not be selling off the HTC Vive division to Google, although I could totally see that working too. Like, why not have that? Facebook has Oculus. Google has its own kind of VR division, and it's the smartphone level of VR. Why not have a premium level VR with the Vive? But that wouldn't happen. Also, Evan Blass has a source that makes him think that the HTC brand might not even be on the table. So it would be kind of the hardware mechanism of HTC that comes over to Google, and not necessarily the HTC brand that stays behind.
And that's actually, I don't think that's bad either, because when we
that
talked
makes sense to me.
Yeah, when we talked about Google and hardware, we've said, okay, listen, they partnered with folks to design and then to produce these things. The reason why they went to Asus for the tablets or HTC for phones or LG for phones is because they lacked the supply chain and the manufacturing, and that's what this gives them. So they don't need the HTC brand; they just need the phone. And honestly, I like HTC phones. I mean, squeezable buttons aside, I think HTC has done some pretty good stuff for Android over the years.
Little squeezable,
especially if HTC's what contributes all the hardware for the Pixel. If they really want the Pixel to be a symbol of what Google can do with hardware and software, then it makes sense for them to own that whole thing beginning to end.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Well, apparently we're not going to have to wait very long to hear what this announcement is. I don't know what else it could be. Maybe it's something entirely unrelated, but we will certainly find out. And yeah, I mean, like I said, they've halted their shares. They have a major announcement, so it sounds pretty critical. Sounds like a pretty big deal. This would fall into line with that.